I want to know that story first. Like, what did you see changing? Well, there must be some story that you brought it up 3 times.
And then in 10 years later, I saw the reef really bland, grey, hardly any life. I researched that while plastics is demonized and a lot of the global media says that, let's say there's going to be more plastic than the number of fish in the next number of years. But then when I really got into it, for the bleaching of the corals, it is not because of those plastics which are floating on the sea, which are not going there themselves, which the humans somehow
they're dumping it,
right? And mainly the shipping industry and others dump it there. But people are unaware because the plastics media and lobbies are very weak to
like
advocate
how your straw
that.
is gonna kill a turtle, right?
Oh my God. And then so it's the human behavior that needs to change. But when I really saw is that the bleaching is happening because there are so many, I'm part of so many industries that I can't name what's actually causing a lot of things but then there's so much industrial chemicals that is being dumped in the sea.
What really is Ugao? If I'll just ask for a person who doesn't know anything about agriculture, who doesn't know about agri-tech or anything.
The Trillion Trees podcast hosted by Saad Al-Lawala. Join the movement. 1 trillion trees by 2030. Tune in for inspiring stories, groundbreaking ideas, and real solutions to tackle climate change. Listen to it. Watch every Saturday, 4 p.m. Make an impact now.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another Trillion Tree podcast with a very special guest, a very good friend who I've made over the past year or so. And he's been someone I've been talking to a lot lately. This guy is doing a lot in the agri-tech space and he sees a lot of potential for this specific business. Me being associated with now nature and climate conservation, I've started to get more and more interested in what he's doing. And that's primarily why we are now, while yes, there are mixed thoughts about agriculture being either a carbon source or a carbon capture, it's still something that's green. So, I mean, I really want to understand what is in his mind, and he does have some solutions that he's working on. Today, we have Ehtesham Maqbool Elahi with us.
Thank you, Saad.
And he's running a business called Ugao. He's running a lot of other businesses. So, we'll get to know more about those first and then get into what Ugao is doing. First of all, thank you so much for giving your time. I'd really briefly want to know more about you. So if someone wants to get to know you about just Ehtesham bhai, where were you born, where were you brought up, how did you actually get into business? Did you actually have interests in business? And then where did it all take off?
Okay. Thank you, Saad, for having me on and giving me this opportunity. So you asked so many questions in that first few seconds.
I just want to know about you.
Sure. I've always been passionate about business. Growing up in a business family, my dad was a founder of a major family business legacy of packaging called Macpac Films in Pakistan. He got in packaging materials in Pakistan for the first time. I was born and raised around that business, and he had very healthy ways to promote our business interest while we were growing up. So he would incentivize us on Saturdays when I would go to business. So he would incentivize me with sports goods, which were nearby that initial first shop come office, or even small pets that we could keep at home, like chickens and stuff like that. So that my interest growing up was close with nature, these home pets, fish, ponds. We had a nice green space. So we had a privileged childhood, but he kept us close to reality also. So growing up, there was a lot of interest around business. Got fortunate enough to get out of the country and get my undergrad from a reputable place. Came back to join the family business. Luckily, when I got back in the business in 2007, I say luckily, but that was not the best of financial times for the group. So it was a very tough time, and luckily I got to learn a lot. So I grew about 10 years in the first 1 year of my business entry. And there were a lot of challenges within the business, which are on another of my podcast with Muzammil. Growing up and then having those stresses are in the business or around the business, nature always gave me a positive escape. I was always a sports person. I was always a nature lover, including the beach. That got me into diving in the early ages.
Wow.
So diving was a great eye-opener for me, how beautiful this world is and how important the environment is. And then diving over the years, and mostly outside Pakistan, I saw the differences in the coral reefs. And when we would hear things about climate change, I saw it happen in real on the reefs.
Really?
Being from a family with plastics background, plastics manufacturing background, we always questioned ourselves also whether we are part of the problem or can be part of the solution also. So then we self-learned and we pivoted from where our core manufacturing is, plastics packaging, but we redefined our purpose that we are giving a lot of value to food security globally. Because when we provide packaging materials, the food is preserved healthily, naturally, and it is able to be transported around the world or from the farm to any shelf space that it needs to for the modern consumer. Of saying that if our products were not available, so any alternate product, whether it was paper or any other product, is non-viable, non-scalable, non-commercially acceptable. Firstly, when people compare plastics to paper, paper itself has a very big climate impact, and that's another discussion and debate whether the wood can be done with sustainable practices and so on. But regardless, every plastic we produce is 100% recyclable. And we also have other biodegradable options, which we are only waiting for the consumer to actually embrace acceptance rather than just talk about it. So we have very cost viable and economic solutions which are compostable and very ready for the markets, and in some parts of the world there's good acceptance, so they're being used. So in terms of plastics, we've make sure that we have good responsible options available. Then we got into climate tech, which is in the name of the Green Arc, and Habib, my brother, leads it, and he's found it and scaling it up. So we're there in the climate tech space. And then with my love with nature and my passion with animals, I started keeping cattle about 17, 18 years ago, almost as early as I got back in the country. So that passion gave me a positive escape, gave me time to meditate, relax, get away from my daily conventional challenges. And I always kept close to that passion business. So it's never been a profit-making venture. That was always a non-profit venture. But keeping cattle and caring for them showed me in the last 5 years, especially, how food cost for cattle has been increasing, because they're mostly, unfortunately, grain dependent, and we don't have a very positive environment for grass raising cattle dependency because of various environment we have in agriculture. Anyways, coming back to the motivation to get into agriculture was mainly feeling the need that how food security is important in order if I wanted to raise cattle. And then the larger concern happened when a lot of economic challenges were happening within this country and globally, that if I'm not able to feed my cattle, so what about the people around me and overall? So I should worry less about feeding these cattle, scale it down, which I did over the last 3 years. I mean, I'm 1/3 in the size than I was 3 years ago in cattle, because I started worrying at a larger scale that I'd rather make sure that the people around me are food secure than just these passionate cattle. So that got me into the agricultural space. When my dad passed on, may his soul be elevated in the highest ranks. But then I was fortunate to get a reasonable size of land to start agriculture, get my hands dirty in the mud, in the sand. And then I really understood why in the Indian culture, the earth is actually called Mother Earth, let's say, right? So they call it in Hindi Dharti Ma. So when I had my first water access to the land, and I saw firsthand how these different creatures and bugs came alive in that land. And then in minutes, I can't share that feeling that in minutes, tens and hundreds of birds came on that land just to feed on those insects, let's say. So that ecosystem just being attracted to when water was thrown in the soil made me realize that how important this space is and how sacred this space is and how interdependent the whole ecosystem is. And then we planted a few things, and then that ecosystem started, and the happiness of having the first sprout and then having the first grain or fruit, whatever comes. So that has a lot of ownership and relatability and resonates with life, creating life. And then economics apart, that security on its own was a very big motivator.
Security that you can grow your own food?
Yes. So the larger worry about the food security for the people around me. And then, when the pains I saw being in agriculture from the inputs that we were getting, the knowledge that we were getting from different kinds of consultants to different kinds of companies, which are large companies also, but everybody had completely different things to say. From the most common thing I heard from the moment I bought land to every vendor I met, I wouldn't say every, but most of them was, please don't get into agriculture. It's too painful. It's too hard. It's a very long-term thing. From friends to extended family, a lot of people said, what are you getting into? I mean, this is not you guys.
Why do you think that is?
So because the variable, just like any business, I'm a businessman. I'm not a hardcore agriculturist, but I'm a businessman. So, but in every business, there are a lot of variables and there are a lot of challenges.
Absolutely.
But if your purpose and if your why is solid, if you know what you're doing, so then you have to be risk averse or risk taking in order to get into that business, and then challenges will come. So there were so many variables, so that, and because people are not aware, the knowledge was not available at that time as much, so people were very discouraged and don't get into this. This is a very long-term thing, and you will not make money, and you will get tired. So being a farmer,
have you gotten tired so far?
I'm not tired. The more I get into it, the more I'm fueled, and the more I think that this space is so big and sometimes so overwhelming that it needs, maybe if I dedicate all of my life or my whatever remaining life to it, I might not be able to achieve what I really want to achieve, but I can still get something going that someone else can take that legacy forward.
That's so true.
Because it's such a huge space. So with all the pains that I felt, especially the advice we got, because it was all over the space. So we did our own trials and we got our own failures, and those failures had cost, and other than cost, there was time that was being wasted. So I had to, make sure that the rationale and the justification is correct. Secondly, this was started by family money. So, we're a patient family, but eventually it has to make money, right? So the larger purpose was, yes, food security, but not let it bleed so much that it drains any other resources also. So we kept it bootstrapped, but I kept it at the agricultural level minimal, but a little experimental, so that we learn what we've learned so far. So from the pains we got, especially the wrong advices we got, I thought there is a huge gap in where everybody could learn from multiple mistakes and have an ecosystem which enables everyone to perform better. I have seen along the way people who came in and got tired early and jumped ship or ejected their planes. But, and yes, agriculture is a long-term scenario unless you're doing it very scientifically or you're using modern practices, which we'll come to later with urban farming and so on. But just like any business, a lot of businesses takes 3 to 5 years to get into break even. And people and businessmen and educated people need to come up with the same mindset. The main purpose, I think the aim should be that the land restoration and the health of the soil. So people have to understand that agriculture is not about planting any product, grains or cash crops or seeds. It's about managing the soil, and it's about loving the soil and keeping the soil healthy. So the rationale for Ugao Agritech came in, where I got inspiration, having the love of agriculture, food security, nature, and technology. So I combined all of that and created Ogao Agritech, where we're aiming to provide an ecosystem where agriculturists, farmers, and all its related stakeholders, including suppliers, consultants, customers, value addition partners who want to add value on agricultural products and have industries, they all come under one platform, and they can trade with each other, they can talk to each other, they can communicate with each other. Financiers can come in and have avenues of financing whatever targets this country has to promote financing in the agri space. So rather than every financier creating their own platform and doing their efforts and then recreating the wheel, Ogao aims to give them one platform where all the stakeholders can come on board and enjoy the space together. So it gives value to a lot of stakeholders in the agri eco space, but mainly to the farmer, where they can get access to information, AI-enabled suggestions, data from what's happening on their farm, which is a very big pain point for most of the farmers I've met. Anyone who's either multi-generational or progressive, or even people who have farms in inheritance, but they're living in urban areas and they don't want to be in rural areas for whatever reasons, but they want to know what's happening in their farm. Successors who don't want to do anything with agriculture because it's just too, in some people's mindset, it's just too backwards to do it because there's no modernization. But if they have information on their hand, just like as easy as any other social media that they use. So then once they're more informed, they'll have more interest. And even if one person from each of those agricultural families gives it the time and the dedication it deserves, they can create more value from their agricultural farms, and they can create more value, financial value from their farms that they've inherited. So that's the space we're trying to provide in Ogao Agritech.
If I ask you about, okay, so who is the right consumer? And I mean, I think I only asked one question, and
it opened up so much.
Yeah. And that's how it should be. What I really want to ask is, I'm going to go back, okay?
Sure.
So because again,
maybe sometimes I go just too forward.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to why even you diving, right?
Yeah.
So you saw the reefs. Yeah. I want to know that story first. Like, what did you see changing? Well, there must be some story that you brought it up 3 times.
I sadly saw the colors fade away. I saw...
like, how were they before and how were they after?
I saw vibrant colors in fish. I saw live corals. I'm referring to Maldives. I've seen changes in Pakistan on China Island, but that was also mainly because of the oil spill they had in China. But going to the Maldives, and then in 10 years later, I saw the reef really bland, gray, hardly any life. But then, and I missed that part earlier, but then I researched that while plastics is demonized and a lot of the global media says that, let's say there's going to be more plastic than the number of fish in the next number of years. But then when I really got into it, so the bleaching of the corals is not because of those plastics which are floating on the sea, which are not going there themselves, which the humans somehow
they're dumping it,
right? And mainly the shipping industry and others dump it there. But people are unaware because the plastics media and lobbies are very weak to
like
advocate
how your straw
that.
is going to kill a turtle, right?
Oh my God. And then, so it's the human behavior that needs to change. But what I really saw is that the bleaching is happening because there are so many, I'm part of so many industries that I can't name what's actually causing a lot of things but there's so much industrial chemicals that is being dumped in the sea from different industries, unregulated or uncontrolled, from the third world.
Even
and
in areas like
Pakistan.
Maldives. Even in areas like Maldives, there is uncontrolled disposal of harmful chemicals, which is actually causing these changes. So the bleaching of the corals is not because of the plastics that's floating on the seas. It's because of the climate change. That's the degrees we've changed in the global temperature right.
And the kind of pollutants we've thrown in the sea uncontrollably.
And you're getting actually, that water getting intensified with all those chemicals, of course, does kill us.
So when we say microplastics, right, a lot of people talk about microplastics. So microplastics is not coming from the residues of, let's say, the packaging material we see or other things. So microplastics, a lot of it, can you guess where it's coming from?
I'm really curious because I really haven't found the answer.
So most of the microplastics is coming from, unfortunately, the washing in the textile industry.
That makes sense.
So that's industrial, let's say the detergents and things that we're using.
Even our polyester shirts getting washed, right?
Even the clothes. So that is releasing microplastics. When we do it at industrial scale, when we do it at commercial scale, when that goes into sea uncontrolled, that's where the microplastics are coming from. So
it doesn't get filtered out.
There's no filtered out. So people are not being told the whole story. I mean, that doesn't mean that you stop wearing clothes. That doesn't mean that you stop wearing industrialized clothing, let's say. I mean,
that's absolutely true. I mean, it's not that if, let's say, I don't know. I'm really bad at giving examples.
Right? And
it's really sad.
Taken aback by that.
To solve a problem, we shouldn't just stop using a lot of things. We should really find a counter solution.
There are solutions.
Recycle it or reuse it. Yes, just yesterday I was at this event. I sent you an invitation for as well, and the environmental ministry was there. And the funniest question that a person asked, he was from a very renowned organization that everyone knows about, was that, okay, you guys are there. It's a provincial association, the body that actually governs this problem for environment. And the biggest problem they have is the pollutants actually getting thrown out from the industries. And their solution was that, okay, we give a warning one time and then the second time we have a hearing. There's no sealing the facility. There's no stopping it. They really didn't have any answers to provide. And I really don't want to badmouth anyone. I know they're doing amazing work in the areas that they are doing amazing work. But this is so much to be done.
Yes.
And there's so many industries now, there's so many businesses now that actually have the solution. We just need to have an open mind, right?
True.
And again, potential for investment, potential for everything. Just
wastewater management, wastewater recycling.
I mean,
that's such an
how big of a business is biogas?
Exactly. And you've always often said that, yeah?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to start a biogas business. Yes. And
once you have your mind to it, you can, not a problem. Why
true.
not, you know?
Mind is so many places. Yes. Just that's the right thing to do. The focus. But yes, coming back to, okay, so I've seen why it hurts you, right? A lot of people, it just doesn't hurt that environment's going bad and they just open the air conditioning instead of opening a window because just the air is bad outside, so I'll just help myself. You have actually taken a stance towards somewhat of a solution. If I wouldn't say the solution for the whole world,
of course.
But yes, you are on the right path and you're doing something positive in that manner. What really is Ogao? If I'll just ask for a person who doesn't know anything about agriculture, who doesn't know about agri-tech or anything.
So Ogao is mainly an app which facilitates the farmer to be in an enabled ecosystem where they can get the resources, the inputs they need to run their farms, including information to run their farms healthily, and then give them access to their customer, which may be a value addition partner, which may be the end consumer. So eventually in the next phases, it will aim from farm to table. Those phases and ecosystems are being worked at, which is going to be the last mile delivery. Apart from that platform, what we get out of it as a company is that we get access to data, which will help give information to supplier partners and the farmers to maximize on that data's input. And the access we get to our farms, the farms that are on the ecosystem, and once we have the information, how much unutilized lands they have, so then the future for Ogao is into afforestation, tree plantation. On the process is regenerative farming. So one thing you mentioned in your opening statement, the question whether the agriculture is a carbon emitting space or a capturing space. So the practices that we'll promote, first we're starting off Ogao with conventional farming and the space the country or the region or the global world is in. Once they are on board and they are dependent on the app and the ecosystem, we will start educating them for regenerative farming, organic farming, and the practices they can use to have a self-sustainable ecosystem. and the tools and the products that we'll bring in will help in carbon capture. It's a little early for me to disclose that, so I will keep that parked right now for our future discussions. But the concepts and the products we'll bring in will help them carbon capture and nitrogen and improve nitrogen cycles in their farms. Saying that, with afforestation, with the trees that we'll help them plant, we'll have access to CSR funds with corporates, bigger corporates than ours and ourselves. We will have lands access to plant those trees for the long run, and that will help. Improve the oxygen generation and the carbon capture in our ecosystem. And we aim to expand it beyond Pakistan, and hopefully in 26 we'll bring the whole ecosystem to other countries which we have mapped out. In summary, in my view, that's Ugao. But where the journey takes us, times are changing really fast, technologies are changing fast. If we pivot along the way and new things open up, that's yet to see.
Okay, so we've been talking about Ugao and trillion trees. There's so many ideas that we discussed, and there's like something that's still not cooked. But I would really want that these organizations that we have partnered up with, so many names to name, but I've seen so in the technology part, there's so much potential for monitoring. If we could just list down, let's say, some basic tools. So as you mentioned, yes, your tool is a farm management app.
Yes.
Along with the marketplace.
Yes.
Right. So essentially, the need that they have for, let's say, fertilizers or seeds, you guys can help them source those and provide those. Manage let's say I have 400 acres of forest. Can I monitor it through your app?
Yes, you can monitor the number of plants you've put, their health, the survival rates, if you want, their growth rates, and then year on year you can add data.
And how does that happen?
So right now it's happening through pictures and minimal data input. But there's a lot of AI on the back end, which is doing a lot of things. So in the future, we want to use more IoT in doing that. So I'll tell you, it's good you asked what you asked before the trees plantation question. So what it's given for me as a farm is, so the ecosystem is now telling me as a farm owner what I've grown since the existence of the farm. What are my yields? What are my yields per land parcel? Let's say, for example, rice. So rice, what is my average yield per acre per year? What are the trends? What seeds I used? What outputs I got? How much money we invested in labor? How much money we invested in water? And so on, all the other resources. So we know which year our farm used what kind of fertilizers, what kind of inputs, what kind of seeds, and then with time we'll have the data on seeds, at which seed or which method that's being used is more successful in which areas. So I started farming from an area in Sindh near Karachi, which is Gharo. So we have a few farms already on board. And then it also brings the intelligence that, God forbid, if there's a pest on my farm, it will automatically alarm the neighborhood farms that there is a certain pest in the area, so they can do some preventive care, rather than that pest is infested in my neighborhood and then they have a reactive approach, which is a more expensive approach.
So working on that ecosystem.
It's already happening. So with the weather integration already, the farmer is informed more timely on the app whether it's going to rain in the next 24 hours or so on. So some farmers are still with that mindset that, okay, if today water needs to be given, then it needs to be given. And then one day later there's a rain. So they're not really looking at this data all the time. And then we have weather stations which can be connected to IoT. So then you can manage microclimates. This is already happening. We're already using this. So one weather station can cover up to 500 acres. So maybe if two neighbors want to co-share, they can co-share. Then we have the first of its kind. We have soil testing machines which are already IoT connected to the app. So the problem we were facing was, even though, let's say, sending a soil sample was about 30 to 50 cents per sample, which is negligible. But then it would take weeks for us to get a result, especially in Sindh, it's like that. So the timing in order to decide whether to plant something or not, or whatever our agricultural cycle is. So that was being suffered. So it was becoming very late to getting the right inputs for the soil health, and then upgrading the soil as required. So we've tried to solve these problems, which we feel we already have, and as more farmers use it, they'll see the benefits from it, because again, it's not costly, but it adds a lot of value.
Yeah.
And the kind of information it gives, whether we want to plant trees, whether we want to do conventional farming or any other form of agriculture we want to do, it gives you the data at the right time. And then timing is key. Weather is changing so fast, things are changing so fast. We need to know things on time for better decision making. And then people who've been in the farming space know that, let's say, even if we delay things 10 to 15 days, how much impact it can bring to yields and the performance of the crops, just because a certain time frame was lost. And then with the microclimates monitoring, the changes in the weathers are so much that weather in X space or one location and weather 100 kilometers away is very different for something to be planted. So that's why checking and monitoring microclimates is very important. And then we have a lot of partners that are being onboarded for water IoT. We have MOUs already that will come into space. What kind of water management farms are doing. So we are enabling the ecosystem with people who are already in the spaces. And same again, people who are already in geospatial satellite imagery, we've talked to them where we'll onboard them with their technologies through API, because we don't aim to reinvent the wheel and do everything ourselves. This is already great work being done in the Pakistani agri-tech space and the global agri-tech space, where people, which I will name later once our things are locked in, that they've done great work. So OGAO is going to enable everyone to come together, where everybody's focusing in their own spaces. We're a little open, where farmers can use each technology and add on each service as they require.
That is beautiful. There's an idea just came to my mind.
You're full of ideas, and I love that. Bring it on.
I'm so sorry. No, this is just an idea for... I was just thinking that we hire security guards and then they just trained for like a month and then deployed. The biggest problem that I see with your app is a lot of adaptation issues, right? Why not just have guys hired, like people pay you for a guy that can actually stay on their land, actually monitor everything for you, for them, on the app.
There's a possibility.
And for lazy people like me or so many other people that actually want that data, that can afford it.
Yeah.
But are just too lazy, or their person
the person will not adapt to get it done.
Just not going
That's
to.
a good idea. So people is one option. Our eventual aim is just to be dependent on IoT.
Yeah.
So I'm already testing a camera which is solar powered, driven by a SIM.
That person's
internet.
Gonna break that camera.
Huh?
That person sitting on that land.
There are challenges. Obviously, there are challenges, but then because of those risks and those challenges, we're not gonna not go that way.
That's true.
We're gonna keep trying, right?
That's true.
And life, just like life, there are risks and things will happen.
Or maybe even a subscription model that, okay, let's say if you concentrated on the Thatta district,
we'll keep that into consideration.
There's like 100 properties that even your friends would have, right? So why not?
That's an excellent idea. We'll run it through the team and keep that into adaptation. That's a service maybe you can add on.
I'd like to subscribe to it.
You can subscribe to it. I'll start with you. That's it.
Done. There's so many things that are happening in the agri-tech space. So I know of a few businesses that say that they're doing exactly what you're doing. There's Kheti, there's other businesses. What is there something that differentiates you, or do you think that the market's so big that there's space for everyone?
First of all, the market is so big, there's space for everyone.
Yeah.
This company you mentioned is doing a good job. When I got this concept, I was not aware what's being done in the whole space. But then I still feel there are a lot of differentiating areas, which I don't want to highlight today. Yeah. But there is a lot of differentiating points where we're working at. and where others are working at. There's always room for collaboration in a lot of places.
100%.
People have done great jobs. But the things that we're bringing in today and where the vision is for the future, I'm at least assuming or hoping that maybe they're not aiming for the same future. But the journey started today where a lot of people have done some things. But if I may say, one differentiation in people who worked already and where we started from, that we started in the unique area of farm management first, because that was pain for me as a farm owner. So we are first trying to solve these daily problems for our clients, our customers. And then we are providing them the ecosystem, which a lot of people in the agri-tech space, even 15, 20 years ago, which was a great time, but a little ahead of its time, they started from the delivery space or the last mile space.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them couldn't work, and I met a few of them. But they were very courageous and very daring to start that when they did. But most of them couldn't survive a workout. But then today maybe is a better time to do it. Those technologies may come up again, and now is the right time. So we got to keep trying. I appreciate all the efforts others are doing, and the space is too big within Pakistan and beyond Pakistan. As we're all aware, we're still one of the lowest yields in the world. Yeah. We might be in the top 10 in production in a lot of cash crops and crops, but our per acre yields are very, very low. So from the farmers to the whole ecosystem, everyone who's in the agri-tech space or the related spaces, or large-scale suppliers who are giving fertilizer products, seed products, and so on, everybody needs to focus on more yields and more healthy practices. Healthy practices for soil preservation, for regenerative practices. So right now we're stuck in very old practices, which need to get updated, and we all are aware what kind of water shortages and crises are looming around us and are coming.
100%.
So better water management practices, and then unfortunately eventually we might all just be forced to get to urban farming, vertical farming, hydroponics, and so on. So and then a lot of countries we've seen which don't have such agricultural spaces and water scarce countries in the Middle East who are focusing on agriculture. There are countries which are very highly food secure.
Countries like South Africa,
the
thing that they went through.
Yeah. So there are already good examples available around the world where they're water scarce and they're doing good practices. So Pakistan is a long way to go, and these agri-tech spaces will also keep changing and pivoting along the way. Today we all are in the spaces we are because that's the mass market, but once we're all in this space, we will help these farmers come into the modern practices.
That's true.
So and if every farmer does it in silo, they might not able to do it. They might not be able to do it alone. So the companies you mentioned and so many other spaces which are not well marketed right now, but we all can lead them towards these changes, and people will have to change really fast, and they will not have 30, 40, 50 years or wait multi-generational knowledge in order to change. So they will need technology, and they will need knowledge, and they will need ecosystems, and they will need events that are being done in Pakistan and abroad, and they will need people coming together and giving them solutions and showing them the way. So all we're doing is enabling them.
So Ehtesham bhai, I really want, because we have an audience that's working in the climate space, we have an audience that we're trying to even the audience that we're trying to capture thinks global. Mm-hmm. Now you can't think global without thinking of the 5th largest population in the world. Now I wouldn't say that I'm like a diehard Pakistani, even though I might be a little bit. I'd like to be a citizen of the world, but I have been brought up in this country. And I do feel a lot and care a lot about it. And I see so many opportunities here. Whenever I share any demographics that are not related to agriculture, but just sharing that, okay, the amount of phones that we have 200 million plus phones in Pakistan. We have majority of our population, 60% or more of our population is under 30. We have water, we have mountains, we have desert, we have sea, beach, freshwater, lakes, unexplored lakes, lakes with no resorts. I mean, you can't really think about that anywhere else in the world. So the amount of opportunity that we have, 250 million people. My city is half the size of Germany. So just thinking about the demographics here is crazy. But again, you are working in the agriculture space. I'd like to know more about that. What are the demographics that I would actually want to attract people to Pakistan? And this is a very secure space in Pakistan, by the way. The one space that never gets affected, and is always reliable. And this, again, the potential he's going to share.
Never say never. Never say that it can be affected.
Usually doesn't, and alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, but never say never. So you're right. The opportunities in all of these spaces that you've mentioned, from tourism to everything, is very vast in Pakistan. In spite of its risks that some people might feel, but the returns are also high, and financially and in terms of adaptation of any technology or product that's being brought into a country like Pakistan. In the agri space, we have about 48 plus million hectares of land that can be used in agriculture, and we are not even using 50% properly. In spite of having one of the largest canal networks in the world, dependent on the industry, obviously. But with that 50% unutilized land, there is so much room of bringing better agricultural practices and crops that are not focused in Pakistan today, but can add value in the economic and agricultural ecosystem.
That is so true.
So at Ugao, at our R&D and our pilot farm, we are experimenting on crops which can be sustainable fibers and replace cotton, which can replace or give alternate solutions to the wood industry. And the crops that we're focusing on are considering the spaces we have unutilized in the Pakistan agricultural ecosystem. So land restoration is a very big area that has potential for people coming in from abroad and investing in the Pakistan agri space, and Ugao also. I'll give you an example of what we bring to the world from agriculture. So Pakistan's wheat production, let's say, before this calendar year, it was over 23 million tons, which is one of in the top 10 producers in the world, where maybe the world doesn't talk about it, but Pakistan is one of the top 10 producers. Saying that, this year the production was about 10% lower due to multiple reasons, but the price economics have not been very supportive for the farmer because of the supply demand or the policies that the government might have for importing wheat and exporting. But what we bring to the world is that we still are able to add a lot of value on those wheat and send you those frozen parathas around the world. Whether you're in the whether we're in the US, in the Indian Pakistani markets, or the ethnic markets, or wherever you are in the world, with our wheat production and with our low pricing, we can just give you more parathas around the world, and we send you Himalayan salt all over the world. So there are so many potential that agricultural spaces in Pakistan and things can be used, value can be added, and then serve the markets around the world. We're providing the world with superfoods like moringa powders and chia seeds. The Far East is using a lot of our sesame for their sesame oils. We are exporting a lot to the Far East for red chili paste. The world is hungry for red chili paste, whether it's the Far East or Asian foods around the world. So chili is a very good possibility in the region nearby to us. Sesame is a great potential, which the world keeps asking for more. So the world can depend on Pakistan for its agricultural produce. When I got Ugao into existence, My target market was not Pakistan. So even with our landlocked neighbors, Iran being healthy in the agri space, then Pakistan, then possibility with economics with India, and the hungry middle classes, mass middle classes growing in China. Pakistan can be the agricultural backyard for countries like this. So that is the potential we hold just with landlocked countries. Apart from landlocked countries, we can still ship so many things with value addition. So let this be your backyard. Utilize its resource availability, its labor availability, the potential this land that brings in. For example, you've mentioned all the geographies we have. So every geography has its role to play.
That's absolutely right.
We are all seeing the rise of the olive space that Pakistan is bringing in for Pakistan and around the world, and the purity is bringing it in with. We are all seeing other crops that are being worked upon, for example, teas and so many other value-added crops that we were first import dependent on, and now Pakistan can be self-dependent on. And herbal teas, we are, some customers of mine are already adding value on herbal teas and exporting to the world, and there's still so much room in that. Whether it's moringa as a superfood, whether it's so many other herbal teas which can cater to the nutrition healthy market or the health market, the potential is infinite. That is why I always welcome people to come in and share whatever they can in this space, even sometimes if it's as simple but very important as knowledge. That's my take on this.
I think that's very beautifully put. And again, we can talk about the opportunities
so
forever.
Yes.
But again, this country is really exciting. That's me personally living here for so long, and I want to continue living here because again, there's just so much potential that's everywhere you go. I think that's one of my biggest problems, that there's so much to do here that I can't stick to one. But again, a lot to do here. A lot of business is happening. Ogao is doing a lot. They have a lot of spaces that they haven't shared yet, but I know there's a lot coming through very soon. I hope to see many collaborations among our own organizations, and more collaboration towards more companies that are popping up and show interest in this space.
For sure. I share your passion, and we're always open to partnerships with like-minded people.
Ehtesham is available on LinkedIn if anyone wants to connect and talk. I think everything's going to be tagged in here, but is there anything that I missed out on?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us here and giving us the opportunity. Hopefully when we sit next, we'll be able to share more.
Definitely.
But if you want to check out, you check out our website with what we're doing, ogaoagritech.net. We have our social media platforms which Saad can share with you. You can download the apps and test them out, and always give us feedback.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Take care.